there's a lot of demand for 2-bed and 1-bed units, and there's a lot of demand for spaces where you can just have a study at home. So being architects, we started designing units that have that kind of workspace. In fact, the residential developments that are multi-use, what we do is that we actually design a co-working space on the ground floor. So that enables them have some kind of study office space that is not in their house. At least to God will be the glory, we have developments in different parts of Lagos, GRA, Ikoyi, VI, Chevron, Ogombo, different areas. Started doing studio apartments that were kind of hippie, kind of things you see in London, you know. And a lot of people now started thinking to themselves, why will I buy a 45 million naira house when I can buy 3 1-beds or 2 2-beds? And funny enough, you have so many people that want those kind of spaces. And the thing is, your rental income even ends up being more than one house that you have. You know, so that has changed the dynamics completely for us, and there's a very high demand.
Using technology to drive rents once more, what it has done for us is it has given us a huge database that we could pretty much ride on to make decision and see where the market is going, you know, years from now. I mean, and that's the power of technology, right? So we know that the type of properties people want to rent. We know the location where they want to rent. We know what they want to pay. You know, we have this rich data, and we're able to, I mean, studios 1 bedroom, for example, is the biggest demand right now in the rental market. A lot of the properties you see are 3, 4, 5 bedrooms, right? And you see that a lot of these properties are vacant also. You bring 100 units of studio into the market today, less than a month, you rent it out. In fact, before you complete the 100 units, you have people on the waiting list, you know, looking to, you know, pay for this thing, or they've started paying for them. It's still very important that developers, you know, are able to really come with the supply. And that's why I like the fact that Homework is jumping at this opportunity, you know, at this point. And even we are looking at the different type of models that we can, it has to be, we have to do it creatively. It can't be boring, it can't be, you know, just studio, just 1 bedroom. How functional can these spaces, how functional can they be that when you're in a small studio of, let's say, 20 square meter, it's functional enough for you to be productive, it's functional enough for you to go to bed and dream well, and be able to plan the next 1, 2, 3 years of your life and do something great with your life.
So my name is Sajid Aminu, and I've been the managing director now at Urban Shelter for the last 5-6 years. We've been, I think, what I like to call transforming landscapes, transforming cities as well, in particular making an impact in Abuja. One of the things that we have really wanted to open up with is expansion throughout Nigeria, and delighted for us that in 2019 we were able to do that by 2 projects in Lagos. So when you mention things like where do we see Urban Shelter going, it's expansion in projects in terms of geography, it's expansion in terms of sophistication of projects, and expansion in terms of how do we create innovative solutions for individuals, that's people that are homeowners, how do we create work solutions, how do we create, you know, real estate solutions in its entirety from start to finish. And I think really, you know, you touched on the word technology. It's completely underpinned by that, because without the technology, I think you are very much restrained about your growth path.
Office occupiers are, you know, looking at the office as a service. You know, they want to. It is another asset, you know, which they own, and they want to be able to get a service out of it, rather than just purely, you know, bricks and mortar. So you do find that, you know, they're looking at space optimization, they're looking at cost optimization, you know, they're looking to ways to sort of make the office more efficient. How can they sort of get the best out of their staff as well? So, you know, it's the traditional leases are still there, flexible leases are still there, you know, co-working spaces is also something that has also been is also key to the market as well.
With the current pandemic, the whole dynamics of the commercial industry has changed drastically. Now, prior to the pandemic, there were issues about the economy. There was the devaluation of the naira, and most of the occupiers looked at it saying, look, the dollar's been constant, but we're paying more in naira terms. And how do we reduce this cost? Because the question is, cost is rising, but doesn't necessarily relate to your P&L, which is your profit and loss. Now the pandemic is coming, and people are finding out that, look, we've paid for 2,000 square meters of office space. We've barely used or stayed in the office for over a year. So that has also put a damper on how people look at the market, how people look at how they work effectively. So the home working is coming to place where people never thought it was going to be quite successful. So people are now looking, how effective can we work effectively to be able to provide those same results but reducing our cost. So you've got, sharing of office spaces. People are, giving up 500, 600 square meters of office space to be able to work effectively, because you don't need to have everyone in the office at a particular time. So the question is, do I still need the same requirement I had 2-3 years ago? The answer is no. So smart working has come into play. People are now asking themselves, do we need to be in an office space, a traditional office space where we have to fit out? Can we reduce those costs by moving into flexi spaces where the obligation to fit it out now falls on the operator rather than us? And again, the question is, how, at the end of the day, it's all about how do I reduce my costs, which is the fundamental thing for the survival of any business you would have in Nigeria or globally. And that's a major thing that most companies are facing these days, is sustainability.
My take is that majority of the companies that I do business with are actually operating the hybrid. That means you probably have, at a particular time, you have 50% of your workforce working from home and 50% in the office. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the physical workspace is going to go away. No. But it's going to be used more in a functional way, whereby businesses are looking at, how do I run my business? Do I need IT to be in the office? No. They can work from home. Do I need the marketers to come into the office? Not really. But then you have some certain disciplines that have to be in the office because of the nature of their work. So we still see that people require the physical workspace, but it's just that they are now shrinking those spaces. So as developers, we're now building functional spaces. We ensure that somebody comes into the office, the look and feel of the office can actually promote productivity. You are looking at workspaces that can drive creativity, and also drive innovation.
One of the things that come into play when it comes to prop tech in Nigeria and in Africa is the maintenance of property, and how property will continue to churn out money. Our softwares and products that we have created center around that in regards to managing the supply chain of maintenance, where from errors being spotted to actual asset tracking to work execution are all monitored under our platforms. And this in itself would help to streamline standards across the board, with more utilization and obviously more systems coming up to replicate this idea or find out niche environments within these processes that can actually begin to solve problems of maintenance and whatnot. And the other thing I like to talk about is also the pathway to home ownership. The pathway to home ownership in Nigeria is kind of in Africa most likely is as a result of our shrinking income classes, where the more money gets inflated, the more pathways to home ownership becomes more steep to attain. So obviously tackling the renters economy is another part, where we can then begin to look at ways to actually break down the renters economy into micro pieces, where people across the income classes can afford to rent at a rate where it's not breakneck. So for us to increase productivity, we actually need to look at how we are providing safe space and shelter to our vast economy. Yeah.
In the property sector, technology is very important. Certain use of technology either enhances the use of property or reduces the cost of either building, renting, access, anything of property, or just generally streamlines processes. When the builder is building, he has to think of selling his home to off-takers, right? Imagine a system where they're using a company like Cecil Global today to sell property. Cecil Global, with their blockchain technology, can put it worldwide and get access to sales. As it's being sold to either those, investors or living dwellers, those people can get on Split and find a way to rent out those properties, as efficient as possible. Not using prop tech makes property companies spend a lot of money today. They're losing a lot of money doing things the traditional way for tenants, for customers that are already using technology. Technology is not the future anymore. Technology is how we live today.
Everyone, I'd like to thank all the sponsors and everybody who believed in this dream at preparing for and then organizing the second edition of the Real Estate Discussions and Awards. We're so excited, and then we don't take this for granted. Thank you so much. See you all next year. #Reda